What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here within the nerdy realm in the multiverse. Sadly and unfortunately, we got the final episode of the Kenobi series, so today we will be going back through the episode and then giving our thoughts on it and the series as a whole now that it is over. Since it's the finale and we are going right back through it and giving our thoughts on it, there will obviously be a ton of spoilers talked about in this video, so if you haven't seen this episode and don't wish to hear anything spoilery, this is your spoiler warning now. Make sure to come back here once you have seen the episode though. Wow, what a packed episode. So much happened, so many amazing action sequences, emotional scenes, and even more nostalgic scenes. And of course, the final wrap on the series storyline. So with that being said, let's get right into going back through the episode and breaking it down so that we can give our thoughts on it after. The episode starts off on Tatooine, where Reva shows up at a sort of water booth where she force pushes the water out of the man's hand, this man being the same guy that Kenobi seemed to work for at the meat market back from the beginning of the series. She then tells the water merchant that she's looking for a farmer that goes by the name of Owen. Obviously we know why she is asking this, as last episode she figured out that Owen had Luke and that she was heading to Tatooine to most likely exact her revenge on Vader. Her revenge being taking out one of Vader's children and a part of his family, as he killed the only people she was able to call her family during Order 66, and she knows that Luke is Vader's child now due to the hollow message she heard in the last episode after her near-death experience with Vader, and she remembers who Owen is as we saw her meet him and interrogate him in the first episode of the series. We move on in the episode as we get some great space chase scenes as Vader is in his Star Destroyer chasing after and blasting at Kenobi and the rest of the early age rebels, we could say, in their transport ship. This scene was very similar to scenes we got in the original trilogy, specifically A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Kenobi's ship loses the hyperdrive ability as the blasts from Vader's Star Destroyer were able to damage parts of the ship, leading them to basically being sitting ducks. This is where Obi-Wan decides that it is time to leave the ship in the smaller transport so that he can buy the group some time and so that he can lure Vader and the Empire away from them, as he knows that Vader is solely after him and really only wants him at this point in time, where he ends up saying goodbye, at least for now, to everyone on the ship, including Leia. Uncle Owen and Luke walk into a shop where they need to get some new parts for a speeder, where the water merchant that Reva questioned at the beginning of the episode walks in and warns Owen of what is going on. So he takes Luke back to their moisture farm in a hurry so that him and Beru can get ready for Reva and do whatever it is that they can do to protect Luke from her and what she is planning to do to him, as they are the only defense there is now that Obi-Wan is off planet. And Owen makes a remark about this, and Beru actually fires back and asks him whose fault is it that he is gone, kind of showing us that they don't really agree with one another on the situation of Kenobi being nearby to keep an extra eye on Luke. But it seems as if they have always been ready for a day like this, as Beru opens a secret little opening in the farm with blasters inside, as they get Luke inside a safe room and get ready to defend their home and Luke. Kenobi is just about to leave the ship so that he can draw Vader and the Empire away from the others, as he sits in an empty room in the ship looking at his lightsaber and once again trying to speak to Qui-Gon, where he says it's either him or Vader that needs to die, but no matter who it is today, it needs to end. But this talking leads to no avail, as there is still no response from his old master. Obi-Wan ends up leaving and going to land on a nearby planet. As Vader watches the ship, and in his feelings and conflict, he demands them to follow Kenobi's ship instead, where even the Grand Inquisitor disagrees with this and seems quite observant or cautious of Vader's decisions. Vader tells them to prepare his ship, as he will face Kenobi himself, as he turns away to get aboard his iconic T-4A Imperial shuttle, which most fans will recognize as we have seen this shuttle quite a bit. But as Vader turns his back and walks away, ready to go fight Obi-Wan, the Grand Inquisitor looks back at him once again in a worrisome sort of way, as we know he disagreed with this move entirely, and he may himself see the conflict in Vader. Vader arrives on the planet where Kenobi is waiting for him, as they they exchange some words and get ready for their rematch, a rematch of the century as it has been called. Kenobi says he will do what he must, the exact words he said to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith on Mustafar, and then he ignites his lightsaber and moves into his iconic battle-ready position that we have seen so many times before. Vader replies to Kenobi and says, "Then you will die," which is exactly what he said to Ahsoka in the Rebels animated series when they met again and fought themselves. And then Vader ignites his lightsaber and they both launch at each other and begin their rematch and duel, the duel we have all been waiting to see. We cut back and forth between their duel and Reva arriving on the Lars farm for a short while. As Reva arrives at the farm, the proximity alerts begin going off, showing us how prepared the Lars family was for something like this to happen, where we see Owen and Beru defend their home and Luke as much as they can, but Reva ends up getting through and Luke has to escape before even seeing her and running away into the lone sands of Tatooine. Now, the fact that they didn't allow or didn't have Luke see Reva and her lightsaber is actually more important than some may think, as in A New Hope when he meets the older version of Kenobi and examines his father's lightsaber. This is the first time he has ever seen one before, so it's pretty cool that they kept the detail of him not seeing Reva's lightsaber so that it lines up with his first actual encounter with one in the original trilogy. Now back to Kenobi and Vader's duel. They both go at each other with intensity and aggression, where it even gets to the point where we see Vader grip his lightsaber with both of his hands, which is very unusual for him, as we know he often duels with one because of his fighting style, but also because his cybernetic enhancements and suit allowed him to be much stronger than usual, and this is Kenobi, a much more formidable Jedi than anyone else he has faced over the years, so he is feeling more pressure. A lot of this duel is once again almost identical to their training scene moves and their Mustafar fight moves. We even see Kenobi move from one of his iconic lightsaber poses to another as he moves into the stance that Alec Guinness's Kenobi used, showing us that slowly but surely he is turning into that extremely wise old man that we know from A New Hope. Not only do these two duel with their lightsabers, but they fight one another with the Force as well, as they throw boulders at each other and drop the tall standing rocks on each other. And then we see Vader crouch to the floor and crush and crack the very surface of this area, sinking Kenobi into a hole as Vader lifts up more boulders and rocks and throws them into the hole where Kenobi now is. Now Kenobi stuck under all of this rubble. I thought it was a little reference to Revenge of the Sith, as now Vader has the high ground and now stands over the hole and calls Obi-Wan Master one more time after he walks away. Kenobi is holding as much of the rubble up as he can so that he is not crushed and killed, where he struggles to do so before he starts hearing Anakin and Vader's voice in his head reciting important moments throughout the movies and this series. Kenobi then begins to have visions and flashbacks of Leia and Luke, reminding him of his duties and the future that these children have, and that if he dies now, he would have failed the children. So he gains more strength and power and launches all of the rubble off of him and jumps back out of the hole of debris and attempts to sneak back up on Vader, but Vader senses it and is ready to begin another duel. As they begin fighting once more, but now that Kenobi has regained a great amount of his strength and power, he gains the upper hand once more, just like he did on Mustafar years ago, as he lifts tons of rocks up off the ground and launches all of them at Vader. These rocks really seem to do no damage and only leave Vader a little stunned, showing not only how powerful Vader is, but how durable his suit is and what it was made to withstand. As we have seen in some books, it has been able to withstand things such as lava. They continue to fight and Kenobi still has the upper hand as he damages Vader's respiratory system and then sends him flying with a force push. Kenobi then jumps in the air and cuts part of Vader's mask off. This is very reminiscent of Vader's fight with Ahsoka, as she too destroyed a half of Vader's mask. And it's even more poetic because they both cut off separate sides of Vader's mask, as they were two halves of Anakin when he was truly Anakin. And later in Return of the Jedi, Luke is the only one that is able to fully take his mask off and then bring him back to the light side. Vader stands back up in his now battle damaged suit as Obi-Wan stands there lowering his saber and his guard, as he knows Vader is too damaged and hurt to keep on fighting, even if his hatred tells him that he can. Kenobi speaks to Vader as he would speak to Anakin, in a very emotional scene as he is crying and telling Anakin that he is sorry for everything that has happened. We can actually see here that Vader's eyes in this part are Anakin's eyes, lives, showing the conflict in him. But then he dismisses what Kenobi says and tells him that Anakin is gone and that Vader is all that is left. He then tells Obi-Wan that he was not the one to kill Anakin Skywalker, but it was Vader that got rid of him, and that Anakin is not Obi-Wan's failure. When he says that he killed Anakin and Kenobi didn't, we can see the red color of his saber emit over his face more, and his eyes turn back to the yellow Sith eyes, as we can see how evil he is. We can even see he has a sort of psychotic smile behind the mask as he boasts about Vader getting rid of Anakin. Obi-Wan seems heartbroken and pitiful for Anakin and what he has become, and says that his friend is truly dead, which is another bit of the poetic stuff that we get in this episode, as Luke says something very similar as well in the original trilogy when he says that his father is truly dead. Kenobi walks away and leaves Vader behind, knowing that he is not really a threat anymore, as Vader lets out a haunting scream, screaming for Obi-Wan, just like how Darth Maul did in Rebels, except Vader screams Obi-Wan and Maul screams Kenobi, showing just how much feelings and hatred both of these guys had towards Kenobi. After their duel, we go back to Tatooine as Luke is trying to sneak away and escape Reva, as he is atop a sort of cliff as she walks through a little valley right below him, but she ends up spotting him and uses the Force to knock him down, which leaves him unconscious, showing even further that he never actually sees her or the lightsaber. Kenobi feels all of this happening as he is flying out of the planet, so he puts his ship into hyperdrive so he can get to Tatooine quick enough to save Luke from whatever may be going on. Reva ignites her lightsaber while Luke sits there unconscious from the fall, as she is ready to eliminate him and get her revenge against Vader. But then she starts having visions of herself as a child sitting there in the place of Luke, and then flashbacks to what happened on the night of Order 66, making her hesitate. Kenobi arrives at the Lars farm as Owen and Beru stand in the desert yelling Luke's name, hoping that he will come back to them. But they say that he is gone, and Kenobi gets ready to go search the Dune Sea for him. But then Beru sees Reva with Luke still unconscious in her arms as she brings him back to them safely, as she was unable to carry out her revenge. Owen and Beru cautiously take Luke as he is slowly starting to wake up and bring him back to the farm safely, and they will still be able to pass off this traumatic event for him as just a Tusken Raider attack, as Owen told him that was what was going on earlier in the episode. Reva sits there crying in her failure as Kenobi tells her that she didn't fail her Jedi friends that she lost during Order 66, but she brought them peace, as she asks Obi-Wan if she has now become just like Vader, but he tells her that she hasn't become him, and then tells her whoever she wants to become now is up to her, as he helps her up as she leaves her lightsaber behind, because as of now, they are both free, leaving us at a sort of mystery to what will happen with her character next. We arrive on Mustafar at Vader's castle, where Vader speaks to none other than his master, Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. They speak about Kenobi, and Sidious suggests that maybe Vader's feelings are making him weaker, where we see more conflict in Vader, but then he sits back and says that Kenobi means nothing to him anymore, and that he only serves Palpatine, as the Emperor's hologram disappears and we zoom out while Vader sits on his throne. We return to Alderaan as Leia gets ready in her brand new style with her new holster that came from Tala, similar to what we will see her like in the original trilogy. Obi-Wan then returns to Alderaan himself to return Lola to Leia, and then tells Leia about Padme and Anakin and what traits and gifts that each of her parents gave to her when she was born and how much alike she is compared to them, without mentioning their names. He then tells her before leaving that she must not mention him or their interactions to anyone, as it is too dangerous for the both of them, which is also a very important detail, much like Luke not seeing Reva's saber. Kenobi tells Bail that if any of them ever need his help again, they know where to find him, which is a great foreshadowing moment, as this is how Leia gets help in A New Hope by contacting her old friend Obi-Wan. Kenobi packs up his stuff from the cave he stayed in, as we can assume he is getting ready to move somewhere else on Tatooine, where he eventually ends up in his own hut that we see in A New Hope. He stops by the Lars farm one last time before embarking on the next little adventure, where he tells Owen that he will keep his distance, but before he leaves, Owen asks him if he wants to meet Luke, in which case he takes up on this opportunity. He walks up to Luke with the gift of a toy version of a T4A shuttle, which we see Luke playing with in A New Hope. He looks at Luke and says his very iconic line, "Hello there." The finale ends as Kenobi rides off on his Yopi, just to stop as he sees something, a Force ghost, beginning to appear in front of him. and it is none other than Liam Neeson returning as Obi-Wan's old master, Qui-Gon Jinn, as he tells Kenobi that he was always here, but Obi-Wan was just not ready to see him yet, showing us that Kenobi was communicating with his master throughout the series in a way, but he just was not in the right sort of mindset to see his master. Qui-Gon tells him to come on as they have a ways to go, as we see the episode end as Kenobi rides off in the sunset and into Beggar's Canyon, the same canyon that Anakin had his pod race in, and now alongside his master, Qui-Gon Jinn, as they embark on a new journey together. Wow, where do I even start? What a beautiful and emotional ending to the series. Yes, the series may have been controversial at times and people have their issues with certain things and episodes, but this was undoubtedly an absolute roller coaster of a finale, and it was truly something to remember. Seeing Ian McDiarmid and Liam Neeson both return for this finale was like a dream come true, and it was so nostalgic to see them return to reprise their roles, and seeing Qui-Gon again was just as emotional as Obi-Wan and Vader's dialogue in this episode. This episode was so poetic in so many different ways, and it having so many different connections to the different trilogies and shows in the Star Wars universe was awesome. The conclusion for all of the characters really did feel satisfying, and it seems as if the rumors of Reva getting her own series may actually be true now, as she did survive the show and is off on her own journey now to discover who she wants to be. It's also possible that we get a season 2 or another spin-off of the show with Kenobi and Qui-Gon finishing their training so that Obi-Wan can learn more about the living Force and how to ascend into a Force ghost after his death. Regardless of the issues or controversy that this show may have had for some people, I personally loved it, and this was pretty much the most perfect ending that we could have gotten for the series and what it gave us. I'm excited to see whether or not we get a second season or a spin-off with Qui-Gon and Kenobi going on their journey, and I am also interested in seeing where Reva goes, as personally I did not have much of an issue with her character as others may have had, and I thought her backstory and motive was pretty sad but also interesting in itself once we actually learned what it was. I am so thankful that we got this series and that we got to see Ewan and Hayden return to their roles, as well as Ian McDiarmid and Liam Neeson, and seeing all of the new actors take on the new characters that we got introduced to in this show. All of the actors did a phenomenal job, and those that returned never lost their touch, and the new ones are great additions to the Star Wars universe and family. Star Wars and the actors all deserve a major round of applause and a thank you for bringing these characters back and giving us older Star Wars fans a sense of nostalgia and bringing us back to our childhood, and for the newer fans for bringing them a compelling story and new characters to bring them further into this fandom and universe. This series truly did bring me back to my childhood with all of the callbacks and of course the returns of some of my favorite characters. What a send-off to a great series. Whether you enjoyed this series to its fullest or had your issues with it is okay, and as unfortunate as it is that the series is now over, we do hope to see all of you and more on the next Star Wars journey that we go on, which will now officially be on August 31st when the Andor series begins premiering on Disney+. Make sure to let us know what you thought of the finale and the series as a whole down in the comments below. We are looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts. But with all of that being said, that's about it for the Obi Wan Kenobi series. If you are feeling extra nerdy today, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on to help support the channel and to get more nerdy content from us. And if you wish to support us even further, feel free to check out the links in the description. And as I always say, thank you all for watching. We will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse. Until the next Star Wars journey though, may the Force be with you.